Hello everyone, I am Prashant. I welcome all on behalf of Eklavya and Chevening cohort 2021-22. Congratulations all who got selected for the Chevening interview. Heartily congratulations. And after the selection result, we got some message from the student that they want some support for the interview preparation. Considering that, we have decided to have this session for the interview preparation. So without taking any time, I will just before I pass on this to our dear cohort, dear Chevening scholars. I just share about Eklavya. So Eklavya working on promoting higher education and enabling grassroots leadership in India, and we are based in Yavatmal, Maharashtra. Since 4 years, we are helping marginalized students or first generation learners to get into premier institute of higher education and shape their career in modern spaces, or we can say development sector. So I heartily welcome all, and I just pass this on to Manzar. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prashant, and thank you so much, Eklavya, team
Since
Eklavya.
4 years, we are helping marginalized students or first generation learners to get into premier institute of higher education and shape their career in modern spaces, or we can say development sector. So I heartily welcome all, and I just pass this on to
Nikhil, YouTube share shuru hai.
Nikhil, can you please unmute? Thank you, Prashant, and thank you so much, Eklavya, team. Yes, thank you. Yes, moving further, thank you so much, Prashant, for the introduction, and most importantly, I'd like to thank Eklavya for providing this platform, because I don't think over the last 10-20 years in the history of Chevening, any platform has been providing mentorship constantly for the applicants. So without further ado, firstly, congratulations to each and everyone who has made it till the interview round. It's I believe you are amongst the 10% of the applicants, and it's an amazing feat in itself. So today, just to give you an overview how exactly we'll be maneuvering through the entire session. This is a very informal overview kind of session about the interview, and most importantly, whatever experiences we have had over the last 1 year. Also, by listening to our friends who have been part of the interview process, this has come out of that. So this is no way an official stand of either Chevening or any official body. This is just, we are just trying to share our personal experiences, and I hope you benefit from that. So quoting myself, making myself very clear, none of us are promoting any official stance of Chevening. And secondly, I would like to emphasize that amongst the selected applicants, if there is someone who comes from a marginalized community, underrepresented community, or any ethnic minority community, and also most importantly, a first generation learner, they can reach out to us. I will be sharing my screen right now so that you can note down the email address. Yeah. So we will be providing a one-on-one mentorship to first generation learners and applicants who come from marginalized, underrepresented ethnic minority communities in India. If you identify yourself as one, please reach out to us at team@eklavyaindia.org. I know some of us are already in touch with us. Some of the applicants are already in touch with us, but I will still emphasize that you should drop an email so that we plan it in a better manner. Yeah, I hope you have noted the email address. So yeah, that is about the entire session right now. And even after the session, if you have any query, you can reach out to any one of us, Pooja, Manzar, myself, Nikhil, Prashant and Raju also. And we will be requesting that all the Q&As, all the questions can be addressed in the end of the session. So please be patient with that. And so I'll just ask Nikhil, who is a fellow Chevener from India, to continue the session. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Manzar Bhai, and hello to everyone. So I am here to speak briefly about the leadership essay and how to go about it in the interview. In addition to different things that I'll be talking about, I'll be including the interaction that you will be having in the interview, the things that you need to keep in mind during the online interview, because I believe that this year as well, it's an online interview. I'll be speaking about changing of universities during the interview, because this is one of the very sought after questions as to whether we can change the universities once we have submitted it. Then the question about the achievements that one have in between this transition period when you have submitted your Chevening application to sitting for the interview. So I'll be briefly discussing about all of this thing. And to start off, I'll come to the essay part at the last. I'll just start off with the interaction. So when it comes to the Chevening interview, it is not an interview per se. It is an interaction where the committee would want to know you a little more and your ideas a little more. They would want to interact with you. So just take this entire exercise as a 30-minute interaction exercise and not an interview exercise, and just be original and be conversant with what you have already written in your essays. So you should at least be, my fellow Cheveners will concur on this thought that you should at least be well aware of what you have already written in your essay. Read your essay at least 5-6 times, know what you have mentioned, what you have written, how you have elaborated on the processes that you have mentioned, different parts of your essay. Then when you are appearing for an online interview, there are certain things that you need to keep in mind. First, the internet connection. Make sure that if there's one Wi-Fi router that you are using for the entire household, rest of the devices are disconnected. You get the entire bandwidth of your Wi-Fi. And if you are, I'll prefer that you use a laptop instead of a cell phone for this interview process. And if possible, if you don't have a laptop stand, just make sure that the camera of the laptop is at an equal level of your eye. That gives a very thorough impression that when you are looking at the camera, and this is a little bit of psychology involved, the interview panelist on the other side will feel that you are talking to them. So it makes the entire interaction more personal in nature. Then make sure that you have adequate lighting in place. You're not sitting in a dark room where you have only one electric bulb or any kind of a fluorescent light or something, but make sure there's an adequate lighting, and eliminate noises as much as you can from the background. See, it's not entirely in your control, but yes, this is a disturbance for both you as well as the panelist, and sometimes it can happen that what you are saying has not been perceived well because of these background disturbances. So there are places that are also available where you can book for say an hour and you can sit at a quiet place and conduct this interview process. That's up to you, entirely up to you. So these are a little bit of tips and tricks that for the online mode of interview. Just make sure that you have Microsoft Teams, which is the platform which Chevening uses to carry out the interview process, installed in your phones. Although you can have an option that you don't get it installed on your phone, but still installed application helps better. Coming to the second part of the interaction that I'm doing with you, there have been number of questions which all three of us would be taking one by one, which are very common and thought-provoking, I would say, to some extent, is that whether the change of university should be, or ideally should be done during the interview process, or if there's any downsides of it or not. And although I didn't go for a change for a university, but both of my fellow members on the panel have gone through it. But I'll tell you why, what I did and what situation I was faced with respect to my universities. So I had 3 universities, of course, on the application, wherein I received my unconditional offer from the second university. And I wanted to just for the sake of it, if I can swap it with the first position and the first goes to the last or something, wherein I was due to receive an unconditional offer. But what I thought was that you shouldn't do anything that, just gives an opportunity to the panelists to raise their eyebrow, is what I'm saying. What you can in fact do is that if there's a certain change in the university, definitely go for it. Change of course, definitely go for it. But if you are confused as to, okay, I have an unconditional from my third preference, and I should just get it to the first preference in my interview, that's not needed. Anyway, when you are selected for the conditional Chevening award, your final award letter that is issued will always have your first interview preference, and you can definitely get it changed to the third. Even though you received an unconditional from the third university, you will be able to do that. So until and unless it's a specific change of course of university that you are going forward with, don't go forward with doing these minor changes with respect to universities. Rather, invest that time in talking, in elaborating your ideas, and interacting with the panelist. That is what I'll prefer. Second, most sought after question is that what do we speak about? Where do we confine ourselves? Do we limit ourselves to what we have written in the essays? So certainly not, I would say, but make sure that you are not speaking something that is completely alien from what you have written in the essays. So you have to keep in mind that essays are the first piece of evidence that Chevening Secretariat looked out for and selected you to attend an interview. So make sure that you talk about the essays and talk about the other achievements that you had in this meantime, when you submitted the application to the process that you'll be appearing for an interview. Only those chunks, only those parts that you think have something major or a big role to play in your future ideas that you have already presented, or say you were convincing Chevening panelists for some of these ideas that you have already presented during the interview rounds. So I believe that these things are quite important when it comes to sitting for the Chevening interview. Rest, I'll be more happy to take questions on board, and if you guys have any questions in furtherance to what I have spoken, I'll just take a look at it and we'll come back to it at a later point of time or towards the end of this session. So I hope this is helpful, and I'll now pass the opportunity to Pooja, who's also a Chevening. And one more thing that I missed out on was the professional experience. This is something that I was thinking about, that I'm too amateur to apply for Chevening. But now we have Manzar bhai. Manzar has 5 years of experience. Pooja has 11 years of experience. I barely had 2.5 years of experience. I graduated in 2020, completed my law, and I went for Chevening. So just drop this thought out of your mind that, there's this ideal, professional experience that Chevening is looking out for. They are looking out for you as a person, your ideas. That is what matters to them. And yeah, so sorry for the extension, but Pooja, floor is all yours here, or Manzar bhai, if you want to speak something. Thank you so much.
Pooja, I'll just take 1 minute. I hope I didn't miss. Nikhil, did you introduce yourself in the course you're pursuing? There might be some applicants who are from law background. Yes.
Right. So I am pursuing my Master of Laws, and I'm specializing in technology, media, and telecommunications law from Queen Mary, University of London. I'm an author. I've written a book and I run a think tank also. And I'm also working with a law firm, and here also I'm working with some of the projects that are going on in the domain of tech law. So thank you so much.
Yeah. The purpose of giving the background is in case any applicant comes from a similar background, and if they have any technical questions, they can ask Nikhil either in the
Yes,
session or maybe
please,
after the session. Yeah,
please feel free.
yeah. Sorry, over to you, Pooja.
Thank you, Manzar, and thank you, Nikhil. And yes, I would like to start by saying that congratulations to all of you who got selected for the interview stage, and because that itself is quite a big achievement that you have reached, the level that you have reached. And as per the introduction, I am Pooja. I am a communications specialist, and currently I am studying media practice for development and social change at the University of Sussex here. So today I would just like to give a little bit a brief about how to prepare for the interview without going too much into the details, like as my fellow Cheveners have already mentioned that we would be taking questions later, and if somebody is interested, we will speak at length a little bit later. But just to start off, I would like to give a little bit the tips of how you can prepare for this next stage, which is the interview, which is which is a very important stage, I must say, because they already know about your profile. They have read about your objectives and your plans and what you have done, the great things that you have done actually. But now this is a time for you to basically prove what you have written, so that you are able to build that correlation that this is something that which you have written and which you passionately feel for, and that is something that you are able to deliver it now by explaining it to them. So just a quick tips could be for preparing. Something that worked for me really was first thing is that you have to be really thorough with your essay. Whatever you have written, because there's always sometimes that during an interview we tend to get nervous. We tend to, there might be a lot of different elements that keeps playing in that 45 minutes of that interview time. So that you do not forget anything that you have written in the essay. So be very particular about your essay and know it thoroughly. You might not have to use everything that you have written in your essay in your interview answers, but it should not happen that you forget an important, crucial element that you must have mentioned in the essay, and then you forget to mention that particular point during an interview. And besides what you have written in your essay, as Nikhil has already mentioned, there's also a time period, right, of 3 months or 4 months between writing of the essay and coming for the interview. And during these months, there might have been major developments in your life that you must have done professionally, personally. So also keep a track of those things, and those are very important to add. It shows that you are growing as a person professionally and personally, and that is something that you are still aligning yourself to your goals and objectives. So don't get confused that this is something that I did not write in my essay, so should I mention it now? So that's, I think, it's perfectly fine. And again, it's just something that worked for me. And also another thing to keep in mind that I personally used was I wrote down my answers that I would want to speak during the interview, not because I mugged it up, but or I had to learn the answers by heart, but so that I just do not forget the important points while I'm talking to them during the interview. And also it is something, the interview is something that it is a conversation, like Nikhil mentioned that they just want to know more of you as a person and your objectives, how clear you are on your objectives and your plan. So so that you do not forget your main important points that you want to share. So it's always better to write it down beforehand and prepare yourself with these interviews and with these answers, especially because also the time that you get during the interview is very limited. You have to be very to the point. You cannot keep beating around the bush. You have to be very precise, succinct answers that you have to give, and writing down the answers beforehand and going through your answers repeatedly helps you in delivering, might help you to deliver better during the interview. So because you would be very direct to the point, what is being asked, you would be able to answer them. And also another important besides this, another important point during an interview is just make the whole process very conversational, because I must say that the panelists also, the questions that they are going to ask, it is not something very different that you would not be aware of, or they would not ask you something that you wouldn't have the answer to, but it is the presence of mind that works really during that time. So that is something that you have to be very clear about your objective and your sector. So sometimes it might so happen that you might get some questions which are very which might be a little specific to your sector, and so that is also something you have to have a very a candidate needs to have a very good grasp of the sector that you work in. And sometimes also it is very, and another important point that I personally always follow during any interview that I attend is like, if I don't know something, I am very upfront in saying that I do not know the answer to this. So it's a piece of advice that do not try to make up an answer that you are not very confident of, because that in fact comes across as a very negative point. Maybe it's okay not to know something. Not everybody of us knows everything, but just trying to make up an answer which we are not very confident of, and which might not be eventually correct, that actually gives a very incorrect impression of us as a person. And lastly, I just want to touch a little bit about the networking aspect of the questions that might be asked, because this is one question that I actually got a lot of sub questions under this topic during my interview. So what matters is that at the end, yes, of course, we need the scholarship, right? The scholarship is important. It will definitely help us to in furthering our objective, in furthering our academic objective and professional objective and everything. And we are here for a purpose, for a reason. And so the scholarship is important. But also what matters is that, the candidate should be able to show them why you matter, like why you. It is in most of the time during the networking thing, we might we show that I'm connected to this network, that network, I'm a very well networked person, I have worked with this organization, that organization, and I have started something on my own. That is all fine. So besides this, another important thing that you always should add with the networking is that how you have actually used this network to co-create. One aspect is that we use these networks to achieve our objectives, and another aspect of networking is the co-creation, the collaboration aspect of it, which is very important. So do not ever forget the concept of co-creation and collaboration, that you must have worked previously on some project or anything, and why that is also very important to you in your future plans, because there's always a very good aspect to co-creation that shows how you as a person, how you as a candidate actually can work with a lot of different kind of people, because we have to understand that no matter what sector we come from in today's time, we cannot work in silos, right? So that is something that you need to show, that why you matter, because you are there for a reason, and then you believe in these co-creations and collaborations. And that's something that if you must have done in the past, even if you haven't done in the past, that's perfectly fine, but that is something that you are working towards And that's why you need these scholarships to further your networks. So yeah, so for now, I think that is what I would like to share with you. And yeah, and we are open to questions. And if you have any particular questions, I'll try to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Pooja. Yeah, so as Pooja mentioned, people are anyway writing questions in the comment section of YouTube Live. Nikhil is anyway answering it, but in the end, we'll be answering them in detail. Most of the points have been covered by both Pooja and Nikhil. So I'll just briefly mention a few points which I feel is important. So my name is Manzar. I'm pursuing a master's in evidence-based social intervention and policy evaluation at the University of Oxford. And so yeah, I come from the social sciences and social work, public sector background. Yeah, I mean, they have mentioned already that the panelists want to look at the person who has written all these answers. And obviously your profile is really amazing if you have made it till the interview round. That's closely 10% of the applicants. And no, this just last 8% left. So you have to be in top 2% if you get through the Chevening Scholarship. So just reiterating the fact that, yes, they would like to look at the face and voice of the person who has written this answer. They just want to be sure that this is you who has written it, not someone else. So do not try to beat around the bush. As Pooja mentioned very rightly, if you do not know, just say it upfront, but don't try to fake it. Talking about the examples part, yes, you can mention more than one example. Nikhil has already mentioned that. This is again something which I don't think I need to talk about. Yeah, sharing an example from my interview experience. I had briefly mentioned about one livelihood project which I worked upon in Maharashtra. Now look at how dynamics work. The interview panelist had one Chevening scholar who was a forest officer. He was an IFS officer. Now, had it been the case, I didn't know about the intricacies of the project, I wouldn't be in a position to answer it. But whatever you have written in your answers, be very thorough, and you should be knowing about every basic detail about it. So let's say if you have written a line in your essay, make sure in the next coming 10-15 days before your interview, you try to think about all the possible questions which can emerge from it. Someone has asked, like, will there be questions out of the context? No, it will be revolving around your essays. Whatever you have written in your essays, they will be asking around the same topic, but be very sure that whatever point you have mentioned, you should be well versed with that. So this, in my interview, the IFS officer very briefly asked about details about my previous project. Now, I had worked on that project, so I knew about the details. So be very sure what you have written, and you should be well versed with that. So yes, you do not know who is in the interview panel. Mostly, there are 3 or 4 panelists from India only, one being Supriya Chawla, who is the head of Chevening India Committee, and then one panelist will be from UK British High Commission. And so yes, the question of accent problem will not be there. Don't worry about that. Try when we talk about your career plan, okay, your future career plan, try to link it with the work UK has been doing in your country, in India, or maybe in your domain. For example, I talked about livelihood, I talked about multidimensional poverty. So I thoroughly went across different projects which are ongoing by UK, which is funded by UK in India in partnership with India. So maybe just read about it, know about it, what exactly it's going on in your own domain. So that will be helpful. And nothing can replicate mock interviews. Do as many as mock interviews as possible. I had almost 10 to 8 mock interviews, and it was amongst us only who were part of this group. So I'm sure you're already part of a WhatsApp group now, right now, which is having applicants from India. So team up amongst yourself, take mock interviews, because this will be a potential cohort. Many from this group will be making it to the final list. So have mock interviews within yourself. That will be really helpful. And yeah, I believe we were also in the same stage last year. We were very worried about how exactly it's going to be. But I'm sure since you have made it till here, you have amazing profiles. You have done amazing work. So just be thorough. You should be knowing your story. So it's like, अगर आपको नींद से भी उठा के पूछें इसका जवाब दो, तुम्हें पता होना चाहिए. So you know your story well. Just and again, not trying to oversay the same thing, but yeah, it's more like a conversation. So keep it very natural. I know it's easier said than done, but keep it natural. And yeah, most of the things have already been covered. If you have any query, now we'll be looking at the YouTube questions and we'll start answering it one by one. Meanwhile, you can also put your questions in the comment section. So to begin with, I guess Vijendra ji has asked, like, you have around 9 years of experience and in public sector specifically, and why should you seek financial help to study? If anybody wants to add else, I'll go ahead with that. Pooja, Nikhil?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Vijendra ji, I feel the most important reason is it's expensive. I mean, it's really expensive studying in the UK. Not just tuition fee, but surviving here is expensive. So you need financial support. And since you have engaged for like more than 9 years in the public sector, you have given your bit of knowledge and experience to the sector. Now, how you can justify is like maybe you need to learn more and come back again and contribute. So it's in a way you are not just contributing to yourself, but you're also contributing to their vision of promoting leaders of future, and that's how you need their support. That's why you need their support. So I think it's very simple. There's nothing wrong in asking for financial support. The question from Shruti has been answered by Nikhil, that there won't be an issue with the accent. Don't worry about that. The question from Mariam was, are the questions out of context? They will not be out of context, but I feel you should be ready with any technical question, whatever you have written. So whatever you have written, from that only it can come, but you should be aware about that. Ubaid says, do we have to know about the activities of British government in India? I guess Nikhil has also emphasized on this. Yes, and even I also mentioned that just not every activity, but at least what's going on in your domain, what's going on in your sector. I guess again, Nikhil has answered. Is it preferred to have a confirm offer letter during the interviews? Okay, I was speaking to someone yesterday also, and I said the same thing. In case you haven't received any offer, or in case you have received rejection from any university, you can just say I'm awaiting, because it won't change the outcome of your interview. They anyway need the final offer letter in July, if I'm not wrong. July, right, Pooja? Yes. So
Yes,
you have time for that. So you can just, it's fine. It's fine. The entire thing is about your interview right now. They will not be focusing much on your outcome. But in case you have received it, feel free to just mention that, yes, I have received it. Ubaid asks, how much does English fluency? Honestly, it does not. As long as you can understand what they're saying, and as long as you can convey your message, you convey your idea, and it's fine. The best example, I mean, you don't need to go anywhere. The way Raju has inspired others, and I have seen that change in Raju over the last 1.5 years. And he's proud, even he and everybody's proud about him, the way he has managed his journey. So you don't need to come from a very fluent English speaking background. Even if you can even if you're studied in vernacular language, who many in the group in this cohort have come from that background, it's fine as long as you can present your ideas, and it need not be very fluent English. And Pooja and Nikhil can also add to it if they want.
Yes. So I think, yeah, very rightly mentioned. So English is not one of the major criteria, right? The objective is about the purpose. Why you? Again, going back to that same point, like why you? If you are able to justify why you question, that is what is actually needed. And of course, English is something that will, the basic level of understanding of the English language is anyway where you have to take the English tests, right, for securing the university letters and all these things. So during the interview, it is not they are not grading you for your understanding or your fluency in English language, but you have to have, you should be able to say your answer in a way that the other person understands it clearly. So that is the minimum requirement. It's not somebody is expecting someone to have very fluent orator level of English understanding. And also, there was a question regarding the accent. So I just wanted to add on that even if sometimes somebody is not able to understand a question, there's no problem in asking the panelist to repeat the questions. It is always better to, if you do not understand a particular question, whether it is because of the accent or the way they have framed the question, maybe sometimes it does happen, it might happen कि समझ में नहीं आया कि question का मतलब क्या था. So there's no problem in actually asking them politely to repeat the question again. That is a better way, because then the moment you actually understand the question, you are in a better position to answer it, rather than not understanding the question and guessing what the panelist would have meant and trying to make up an answer.
Yeah, thank you, Pooja. There was also a question about the selection rate. See, these are not official numbers which I am quoting right now. This is just what we have heard, what we have seen. So in our cohort, I guess it was close to 45 people from India, 45 on and off, some didn't come. But yeah, I guess it was close to 45 who made it to the final scholarship from India. Previous year, it was less, it was 39 because of COVID. Previous to that, it was more than 50. So there's no hard and fast rule that this year they'll be taking these many students. But yeah, on an average, it can fluctuate between 40 to 50. So it all depends on the way they think. So there's no fixed number. But yeah, globally 63,000 or more than 60,000 apply, and close to 1,500 make it till the final round globally. And from India, I feel is like 40 to 50, somewhere in that range. So this is about it. Anything else? Yeah, we are missing out.
There's a question relating to dressing and dressing. Three questions, in fact. Dressing university applications need to be done, and how much weightage does the referral letter have? Before that, I'll also convey on the English part that maybe accent or something. But see, I can be completely or horribly wrong at saying this, but what you put across, say for example, when I put across that I have a book, right, that's written in English, and then if I don't convince through my communication skills that I can communicate well in English, there can be chances wherein you lose out on the confidence of the panelist. Just saying, can be. So, but otherwise, I don't think so that English fluency has become a barrier for not getting shortlisted, or I haven't seen that happening anywhere. But yeah, depending on where you're coming from and how you claim yourself, what you claim yourself to be. Coming to the second part of dress code, there is no dress code, but definitely it's a formal interview. So you'd be advised to dress in the appropriate manner. Of course, you cannot be, say for example, when I was sitting for the interview, it's like usually, we are like now in that mode that we are in front of screen, we dress up from the torso, but we, are wearing shorts in the bottom. I'll advise you, when I sat for the interview, I had my formal shoes on when I was appearing for my interview for Chevening. So it matters, and I'll tell you, dress code also gives you a next level confidence that you are presentable in front of the panelists. So this is what irrespective of whether it's an offline or an online interview, I do emphasize on dress code. Maybe Manzar and Pooja can have a different point of view on this. And the second question from Lakshdeep is, university applications need to be done before interview or what? It's not necessary, Lakshdeep. The thing is that, as Manzar bhai said, you have a timeline of July wherein you have to give them an unconditional offer letter. So this is the time where you'll be working on. If you have an offer letter with you, fair enough, well and good. It will play advantageous, because it happened during my interview that when I was put across with the question that whether I want to change my universities or whether I'm happy, and the moment I said I have an unconditional offer, I saw Miss Supriya taking a note of it somewhere. I don't know, but it's just, there's no official claims, but yeah, it can help you if you have an offer letter with you, because it shows some kind of a certainty with respect to your plans. Maybe, I don't know, but still, these are all thought, that came to my mind. But yeah, the third question is, how much weightage does the referral letter have? See, I don't think so that none of us here are can answer this question authentically, with authenticity, that how much we ourselves don't know whether what was the weightage that was given to our referral letters that we submitted. But yeah, maybe definitely it does carry some role, at some given point of time during the process. So don't take it lightly. Make sure that you follow the guidelines that are mentioned. It's mentioned what they need from your referees. Make sure that that your reference letters are addressed to the British High Commission. I guess it's there, with the address you write, and then start off. Make sure that all the pointers are highlighted. You will get this thing when you go to the chevening.org website. There's a list of the pointers that you need to keep in mind, the referees need to keep in mind. So make sure that you convey everything to your referee. It shouldn't happen that you are running at the at the very at the corner of the clock to submit the reference letter, and then you see that it starts with "to whomsoever it may concern." I'm not saying it is wrong, but you should definitely pay more attention, is what I'm saying, when you are so close to the process. But yeah, over to you, Manzar bhai, for the rest of the questions.
Yeah, so Pooja, would you like to address a few questions? For example, Pranav has asked, my proposed area of research and policy engagement is encryption tech cryptography. It's a
Yes.
niche area. Should I explain it at length to them before then asking, or wait for their cue? Yeah.
Yeah, so I was actually reading at that question itself. So that's a very interesting question. But there's always a time for you to answer. So basically, my cue here would be the panelists that are there who would be coming to talk to you. Obviously they might not be aware of everything that a candidate does, right? They might not be the subject area expert of your sector. But having said that, wait for them to ask you any particular question, as because sometimes you might come across as it might become very overwhelming, like, I know this and I really want to tell you this, no matter whether you want to listen to me or not. So you also, I feel that a candidate should not come across as that kind of a person. So wait for the cue. And also another way could be, when you are preparing for your answers, before the interview, try and see how you can fit these elements that you want to mention them, how you can fit these elements in your answers. So sometimes if the question might not be related to your sector, but it might be related to something else completely, maybe networking, maybe a project that you must have created in the recent past, which you are you're very proud of, or something on those lines. So then the idea is that you should be able to insert those information in their answers, in the questions that they ask you, rather than just they might be asking you about A, but you really want to talk about B, so you start off with the B. So that is not how it works. So even if it is a very in-depth research that you are doing, a sector, and people might not be aware, just wait for that right moment so that you are able to fit in your answer very smartly. And the next, actually, I wanted to share about the reference letters, because I think there are a couple of questions regarding the reference letter. So I would really say that, see, we do not know how much weightage everything has, but just the very fact that they have asked you for a reference letter itself makes it an important element, right? Because this interview is all about is that level where it's a chance for you to justify your work that you have written in the essay. So, and all these, again, I really believe that we cannot work in silos. So these reference letters play a very important role as well, because these are the people who vouch for the work that you have done. It might be an academic professor who has given you the reference letter, or a professional supervisor, or whoever, So this is just a reiteration of the fact that whatever you have written in the application, it is something that people vouch for you as a professional. So I would advise not to take a reference letter very lightly, because it is also an important element. These are the different aspects that helps in creating that story of yours. So you lose one missing point, and then the story might not get justified. So yes.
Yeah, and Vijayendra even asked about having the same references. Yeah, so Pooja, if you want to add, I think it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. At least I use the same references.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
But here you can go for a little tweak that justifies. See, a
Yes.
university reference is different. Chevening reference will be a little different, which has to portray some of your qualities. So a little tweak here and there should serve the purpose. And I'll just like to backtrack to Pranav's question. Pranav is my classmate, by the way, Manzar and Pooja, and so he's working in the encryption area, and this is something that I faced when I was sitting in the interview, because even I'm working in a very niche area of tech law. The only thing that I kept in mind was to what exactly Pooja said, was to not overwhelm the panelist on the other side, because when the panelists are not well aware of what you're doing, you want to just try teach them everything, but you need to limit yourself over there and just give them some cues. In fact, you give them some cues that can provoke their inquisitiveness towards wanting to learn more from you, and then you get the steering wheel, and then you can drive your interview, is another aspect and way to go about it. But yeah.
And I guess we missed a few questions. I'm just going through them once. So I guess accent is covered. Out of context is covered. How important to be successful at the interview is to have volunteer experience. See, the fact that you have made it to the interview round is evident that you have done enough work and you have showcased the qualities which they want. So you don't need to worry about that. So you just need to elaborate on what you have written in your essays.
Yes, and also another. Sorry.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
So just one quick thing I wanted to add there, that and it is very generic. It might sound very generic, but I feel it is very important that not to compare yourself with any other candidate, because that might be very overwhelming, because you mentioned that how important it is to have volunteering experience. So everybody who has reached this level has a different story and has a very unique story. So somebody might have a lot of volunteering experience, but I might not have any experience of volunteering, but that doesn't make me lesser candidate, like that I have something that might put me on a back front. I might have something else which works for me in my objective, in my future plan. So that is something that one needs to be very careful about. Not everybody needs to do everything, and the very fact that you have reached here is because of something, is because you have done something right that you might not be aware of, but you have done something right. Otherwise you wouldn't have been sitting in the interview. So everybody has their own journey, so try to stick with it and try to justify your journey. And along with that, I see this question, should we be ready for what topic we want to further research on? I think that is a little bit open-ended again, because there might be in the objectives, I think the future plans that we have to submit in the essay. So there might, of course, we have to have a future plan. It might, and some people might have a very specific area of research or very specific topic that they are very clear about, of what they want to do very specifically. And also there might be some candidates who have a very clear future plan, but it's also these future research is also because you're coming here to study, right? So you might get some new ideas, opinions, and topics that you might further would want to work on. So it is not something that you really have to have like a proper plan, a research plan, but I think a candidate should be able to have a fair idea where the person is going after completing the academics. If Manzar or Nikhil, if you have to add anything on this.
No, I guess most of the points have been covered already. One point I forgot. Yeah. If you come from, a tier 3, or if you come from a rural background also, please do not hesitate to highlight that, because representation matters. And yesterday we were having a discussion with Pooja and Nikhil also, where Pooja was discussing how representation is slowly increasing, and that is something we should be very proud about. Also, again emphasizing that Eklavya will be undertaking a mentorship program, which will be specifically for first generation learners and applicants who come from marginalized communities and underrepresented communities or ethnic minority communities in India. So you can reach out to them at team@eklavya.org. Yeah, team@eklavyaindia.org. I'm specifying again, team@eklavyaindia.org. The team has already shared the link in the YouTube link. And yeah, I mean, apart from this, if you have any query, you can reach out to either of us. I am currently pursuing, again, evidence-based social intervention and policy evaluation at the University of Oxford. Pooja is pursuing, I forgot. So, can you please tell her?
Media practice for development and social change. Yeah.
At IDS, University of Sussex. And Nikhil?
I'm pursuing LLM, specializing in technology, media, telecommunications law from Queen Mary, University of London.
Yeah, and now we have another question. Nitya has asked, when you're answering career plans, do you need to specify the years? For example, short-term plan is 2 years. Should I go ahead with this? If anyone wants to answer.
Okay, so you can go ahead, because Nitya is, again, I have been mentoring her, so it would be good for her to get different perspective.
Okay, I don't think you need to be very specific with the number of years. You can give a tentative timeline that, okay, once I'm back, this is what I've been planning to do. A tentative timeline, a range would do, maybe say 2 to 3 years or 5 years. So you should have a range in your mind, but at the same time, the justification for that. For example, if you're going to work in the public sector, that needs a larger engagement to understand the system, to understand the machinery. So maybe that's something you can mention, but they do not expect that, okay, if you have mentioned 2 years, why haven't you worked after 2 years there? So you can have a tentative timeline, but justification for the same. Mariam has asked, I have also heard that the following question might be asked, who is your role model? Yes, many questions. For example, who is a role model? It's a very personal and subjective question. As long as you justify it, why the person is your role model, I think you're good to go. And yeah, the question which I forgot. So as per last year's experience, we realized that there's a question which is asked, that what will you be doing apart from your studies? That's a very common question. And I'm sure now most of the groups will be having a document which has a list of questions. If not, reach out to either of us, we'll be sharing it with you. So in that, you'll be finding this question, that what will you be doing apart from studies? So I would suggest, do not just simply talk about only traveling. Maybe if you can show it in a way that, okay, how through traveling you are trying to learn the culture, you're trying to learn from experiences of others. So that can add. That's again my personal view. You can do that also. So do not think that any question is it's not being assessed. The way you speak, the way you behave, the way you convey your ideas, everything is being assessed. And constantly you'll see a neutral reaction. So you cannot predict that, where am I going right? Where am I going wrong? And everything what Nikhil mentioned, I had faced. The way Wi-Fi, didn't work for me half an hour before the interview. I had to run somewhere else. So all of this I have faced. So be very sure about the place where you're going to have the interview. I mean, we don't think, but it's very important. Yeah, and if I think most of the points are covered. If you have anything to add, but I'm done from my side. Yeah, please go ahead.
I think somebody asked, do we have to ask a question at the end, if I read it correctly?
Yes, please go ahead, Pooja. You're right.
Yeah. So I think personally, I feel it is always important to keep a question ready. always keep a question ready, because they do ask, do you have any questions for us? And if they don't ask, that's a different thing, but usually they do ask. And I feel that you should always have a question ready for them, because that also shows how curious you are, how interested you are, and your involvement. It is not that I need this scholarship because I want to have this academic masters, but also it just shows your curiosity about the whole system of how the Chevening works. So I think always try to keep a very smart question ready for the panelist. And try not to ask questions that are already mentioned on their websites, because that also shows that, you did not read the website well.
Just to adding on to this, so I'm just sharing what question I had asked. It was completely off the topic, and I just asked that I was reading through the Chevening activities, and I saw they had a baton. So they used to pass the baton from one area to other area. So I just asked, where is the baton right now? Do you even know about it? So they were not expecting this question. So they were like, oh, you have researched about it. You have read about the activity. And it was a very light-hearted question. Everyone laughed. So do not be stressed out. Just keep it light. If possible, crack some jokes in the end. Keep it very light. And research if you get some time, and these pointers can help you, set yourself apart from the other applicants. And that's all, I guess, from our side. Most of the points, and again, it's a very competitive round. You have really showcased amazing skills. You are here, and I'm sure most of the people get through. And if you need any help, we are always there. You can reach out to any of us. We are anyway available on LinkedIn and everyone. Now I'll just request Prashant from the Eklavya team to give the vote of thanks. Prashant, over to you.
Thanks, Manzar. Yeah. Thank you all. Thank you all who participated in this interaction. And really thanks to Pooja, Nikhil, Manzar for such an interactive and productive discussion around Chevening interview. So I would like to mention here that we have, as Manzar already mentioned, that we have recently launched a mentoring program for the student who want to pursue higher education abroad. So we launched the program named Eklavya Global Mentorship Program. So which is supported by the scholars who are studying abroad, like Chevening scholars and some organizations over there. So under this banner, we will be helping Chevening like Chevening aspirant, those who are going to face interview this time. So you can directly reach out to us if you are coming from marginalized background or first generation graduates. You can we will be there to help you in this process. So thanks all. Wish you all the best for the interview.